as per usual in these trailer breakdown videos, you might want to go ahead and lower the volume before you actually start listening. HBO has just released another, well, okay, look, let me clarify. I had to do some research digging to find this. HBO on March 30th released 2 teasers on Amazon Prime Video. Now, if you're like me, you probably have Amazon Prime Video, but you would never think to look there for new Game of Thrones content. I have HBO now, so there's no reason for me to go there looking to watch episodes. Now, by the time I actually upload this video, these 2 teasers might be up on YouTube, but if not, don't worry, I'm going to show footage of them in this video. Now, when you combine these 2 teasers in a whole, they have some scenes that were in the first trailer, but also they have multiple shots that are not. For instance, this one of Jon Snow in the God's Wood looking at this weirwood tree, and then Arya pops up behind him. This is the first footage we have of Jon Snow and Arya in the same scene since Game of Thrones Season 1. Now, let's go ahead and jump into this. As always, here's your sign, and let's freaking begin! Now, before we get started, please slap a like on this video, as the like goal is going to be 1,420. Also, we just hit 60,000 subscribers yesterday. Let's see if we can't keep that momentum going and hit 75,000 before Game of Thrones Season 8 actually comes out. Also, make sure you have notifications turned on so that way you get alerted every single time I drop a Game of Thrones video throughout this long night. Now, it looks like these 2 trailers are actually go along with the main trailer for this season. They're more so promos, and they're about 30 seconds each, and they share a bunch of similar scenes. We get the same shots as in the main trailer with Arya running from the Whites. We get Jaime battling on the barracks. We get Jon and Daenerys arriving at Winterfell. Sansa looking at the dragons arrive in Winterfell for the very first time. And all 3 of the trailers, including the main one for Season 8, ends with the dead showing up at Winterfell. We see the dead horse's leg take one step, and then the trailer cuts to black, letting us all know that this is the final season of Game of Thrones. Now, these trailers were actually called Die, and then the second one was called Forward. The way that they're labeled like 1 and 2 makes me sort of think that they may be doing a few more. And to make sure you stay informed on this type of content, go and follow me on Twitter at Sir_Hunts. Now, just sort of going through things I noticed from the very first trailer, the first thing I noticed was when it starts out with Tyrion says that we must fight together now or die. In my opinion, he's likely calming everyone down just after Jon and Daenerys' arrival at Winterfell. I'm pretty sure when they have that initial meeting inside the Great Hall at Winterfell, there's going to be a bunch of people at each other's necks. There's likely going to be a few awkward moments, followed by several out-of-place insults. Tyrion is likely explaining to everyone, look, if you're going to fight, let's at least fight together or we're all going to be dead. And he's right. You can't really blame him from telling everyone to put aside their differences. If they don't do this, they will not survive. Jon has been preaching this speech since Game of Thrones Season 6, and it seems like everyone else is finally starting to catch along. And the next shot from the first teaser that I want to discuss is that of a real quick scene, and it looks like Jon Snow is in a room with Daenerys. They're clearly in Winterfell. If I'm not mistaken, that's the same fireplace that Bran was staring at in his promo pictures for Season 8. And at the end of Season 7, when him and Sam discover Jon Snow's lineage. Maybe this is right after Bran has informed Jon and Daenerys of Jon Snow's true lineage. Another scene that I want to discuss, and I'm not discussing the trailers or the teasers rather shot for shot, I'm just discussing the newer scenes. And another one that I want to discuss is Beric makes it to Winterfell. Now, what's interesting, and the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because if you all remember from the very first trailer for Game of Thrones Season 8, we saw Beric, Tormund, and Ed. They appear to be walking into what I suspected could either be the Crypts of Winterfell or maybe somewhere at Eastwatch or possibly even Castle Black. And as far as we can tell with Beric and this new footage with his flaming sword, neither Tormund nor Dolorous Ed are with him. In my opinion, it would be crazy to have Beric survive and not Tormund, so maybe Tormund is with Jon Snow during these shots. You all let me know what you think down below in the comment section. In my opinion, Dolorous Ed will likely bite the dust. All of Jon Snow's friends that he started out with at the Night's Watch are pretty much dead. And if you'll allow me to jump the game a little bit, in the Game of Thrones, Amazon, whatever the hell you want to call this, in the second preview, Jon Snow has a conversation with Sam, and in it, we don't actually get to see footage of the conversation, but Sam has a voiceover telling Jon to think back to where we started. Jon then replies with, "Now it's just us." This, in my opinion, literally confirms that the conversation between Jon and Sam are likely after they find out the devastating news that Dolorous Ed has been killed. Otherwise, why would Jon Snow say it's just us? Now, the last few things I noticed from the first Amazon teaser, and you guys comment down below if I missed anything, but was dragon glass on the unsullied shields. Now, I had to freeze frame it, but this clearly looks as though there has been molten lava laid on on the Unsullied shields. We know they tend to fight with them, so they're going to be decking whites in the face, and the whites are going to be getting a knuckle sandwich filled with obsidian. Also, there was another overhead shot of what appears to be Varys, Tyrion, and Davos watching the dragons arrive in Winterfell. What's crazy though is that they're already in Winterfell, and we know they left with Jon Snow and Daenerys. So this must be something intense happening. Otherwise, they wouldn't all be looking up like that. They've seen the dragons a few times by now. If you'll notice, there is a bucket of dragon glass right behind these folks. There's some weird modern day looking spatula, and it looks as though they're grinding it into dust of some sort, but there's a bunch of dragon glass piled in a bucket. I was sent a leak a while ago that mentioned they're going to come up with some sort of device that basically splatters dragon glass shards everywhere upon impact. So maybe that's what they're doing here. Maybe they're coming up with some sort of way to make explosive dragon glass bombs. I doubt it, but my imagination gets the best of me more often than not. And the last new scene we get from that first teaser is Jon Snow slinging Longclaw pretty vigorously. This looks as though it may be towards the end of the battle for Winterfell, and in my opinion, this could be Jon Snow's faithful square off with the Night King. I don't think the Army of the Dead is going to be completely destroyed by the battle for Winterfell. We'll still have 4 episodes, well no, that's not right, 3 episodes left of the season, so I don't know if it makes sense to deal with the biggest villain aside from Cersei so early on in the season, but at this point, who knows? Now let's discuss that second teaser, starting off with the moment you guys have all been waiting for, that being Arya's reunion with Jon Snow in the Godswood. Now the trailer starts with Jon staring at the weirwood tree, and there's a voiceover of Sam telling Jon to think back to where we started. Jon replies, "Now it's just us." Right as we get that voiceover, that's when Arya walks up behind Jon Snow. Now if we look at the past history of Starks reunited in Game of Thrones Season 7, the order goes as follows. They meet in the Court of Winterfell, and then they have an emotional / intense scene underneath the weirwood tree in the Godswood. Now I know Arya and Sansa reunited for the first time in the Crypts of Winterfell, but they still shared an emotional scene underneath the Godswood. I think what's most likely going to happen here is, if you'll remember from that first trailer, we saw Arya reacting to Drogon of Viserion flying over. She's clearly in Wintertown, not yet in Winterfell. She likely hears of Jon Snow and Daenerys' arrival beforehand and then goes to Wintertown just to see them when they actually arrive. It's probably a combination of excitement and awe, and also Arya is the perfect person to read a scenario and a situation. So if Arya is watching Jon and Daenerys arrive in the north and Jon and Daenerys are unaware of Arya watching them, they're much more likely to be their normal selves, more in particular to Daenerys. Jon Snow has not changed, and Arya is going to find that out quickly. She'll probably try to play the game of faces with him under that weirwood tree, but I think we all know how that's going to turn out. Now what's interesting is, why would Jon Snow be in the weirwood tree in the first place unless he was meeting with Bran? So this could not only just be a Jon Snow and Arya reunion, this could also be a major House Stark reunion with Sansa pushing Bran out to meet with Jon and Arya. I hope they do get some alone time away from Daenerys, because I kind of want to know immediately how Sansa and Arya really feel about her. Obviously the actors have hinted about how there's going to be some turmoil and some conflict, and there likely will be, but it's mostly going to be dealt with within the first 2 episodes. The battle for Winterfell is episode 3, so they're likely not going to be dealing with any sort of drama, as it would have already been dealt with. And Sansa's a professional player, so even if she does have a big issue with Daenerys and she just doesn't like her as a person, she's not going to do anything about it until after the battle for Winterfell, until after the threat of the dead is gone. Then she'll realize that she doesn't really need Daenerys for anything, so if there is some sort of issue, that's likely when it will come up. The next shot we get of the trailer that's new is one that I mentioned because it was in the first teaser, was the one of Drogon flying overhead, and then Tyrion, Davos, and Varys are sort of looking in awe. Now, like I mentioned before, it's kind of crazy that they would be looking at a regular dragon that way, because all 3 of them have seen dragons for a few seasons now. The one thing that made me think of why they could be looking at Drogon this way is if Jon is on the back of Drogon with Daenerys. Now, you all let me know what you think down below in the comment section, but in my opinion, 2 of the last Targaryens on the world's biggest dragon, one who can rival the size of Balerion the Black Dread, would be pretty all-shocking to see. Then the last few scenes of these 2 promo teasers that we got from Amazon, well, the last few new scenes that I want to discuss anyway, there's a moment towards the end of the trailer where Jon Snow lights a candle, and he's clearly in the Crypts of Winterfell. He lights a candle and then blows one out, all the while saying we need to end this war. Now, if y'all remember, we actually got another clip of this from the original Game of Thrones Season 8 trailer. We got a shot of Daenerys walking up to Jon Snow to sort of comfort him, and what I stated then is the same thing I'm going to state right now. This is right after Jon Snow finds out his true lineage. Jon is looking at his Aunt Lyanna, or who he thought was his Aunt Lyanna, and instead realizing that this is his mother. He's been lied to his entire life. There's also a good chance that he could be looking at Ned's statue, maybe asking him why. Why would you keep such a huge secret secret from me my entire life. In those moments when Jon Snow snuffs out the candle that he lights one with, and he's saying we need to put this war to dead, this is what Jon's doing with his lineage. He's saying it doesn't matter. They're all dead. The past is dead. We're alive now. Let's fight for the future. I think that's one of the biggest shocks that's going to happen in Game of Thrones Season 8. To us, to the audience, to everyone else in Westeros, Jon Snow's lineage is such an important thing. It could change the world as we know it, but to Jon, it means nothing. It's not going to change anything about him. He will neither accept it nor deny it, so he's not going to change at all. I think that's going to be a huge letdown to some people. Everyone's expecting Jon to sort of become this white-haired, muscly savior that will just start swinging his sword around like I'm the king once he finds out his lineage, but that's not the case. Jon's story is to fight for the good, do what's right, literally sacrifice everything just so that everyone can live, regardless of whether you're his enemy or not. This is Jon Snow, or the hero's journey. Now, to clarify, I do think Jon is going to accept his lineage. I don't think it's going to weigh on him or change him at all when he finds it out. I think at first he's going to be a little bit thrown back, but Daenerys is most likely going to cope him through this. Right when she walks up is when she begins her pep speech, in my opinion. But you all let me know what you think is happening in these scenes down below in the comment section. Now, these last three scenes don't really need discussion, but I do want to mention them because they are new. There was a moment in the trailer where Jorah walks up to Daenerys, and Daenerys is clearly in her chambers at Winterfell. And then there's another one where Jaime's yelling, and that was a major debate for the Game of Thrones Season 8 trailer. I personally thought he said run. Some people thought he said Brienne. Some people thought he said Bronn. But when you listen to it, and I'm not going to play the audio for it, but when you guys go back and watch that and you listen to it, it clearly sounds like Jaime yells Jon. He's likely warning him just before something crazy happens. And then the last new clip, or just sort of new voiceover that we get, is of Jaime, and he's telling someone that this goes beyond loyalty. This is about survival. The past doesn't matter, and more so the future is what everything needs to be focused on. We need to set aside our differences. It almost seems like every single major character is saying the same thing. All the good guys anyway. They're all telling you, put aside your differences, the dead are here, we need to fight together or none of us are going to survive this thing. And if there's one thing I've learned about the entirety of Game of Thrones and the HBO marketing campaign when they market for a new season, it seems as though they like to misdirect and mislead a little bit. They're trying to convince everyone that all of these past events has all been for the Iron Throne, and we all know that's not the case. This story is not about some iron chair. It's about the horrifying atrocities of war, the terror and the emotion of conflict of the human heart. It's about so much more than for the Iron Throne. So if that's what they're doing and intentionally trying to mislead us and make us think that it's all been for the Iron Throne, this has all been some giant game, then maybe that's what they're doing with trying to convince us that all the main characters understand how important it is that they set aside their differences and come together to fight the Night King, to fight the dead. But I feel like I'm just overanalyzing too much. Oh man, I really don't know what to think anymore. You all let me know and help me try to decipher some of this down below in the comment section. At this point in the video, we've pretty much discussed everything that I think of as in importance to these two new teasers on Amazon Prime Video. I'm positive we will be getting another full-out trailer. Maybe they'll combine all these clips together and sprinkle in a few new ones, and that'll likely be released tomorrow. At this point, these teasers have been up for almost 48 hours over on Amazon, and they have not been uploaded to YouTube. By the time you're watching this video, that could all change. But I feel like the fact that they haven't uploaded them yet, and we're 2 weeks away without an official second trailer, that means we're probably still gonna get one that will likely be a minute to a minute and a half in length. And you know I'm gonna break that sucker down. Alright, and with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you could, please slap a like on this video, as the like goal is going to be 1,420. Make sure you're subscribed, and also make sure your notifications turned on so that way you get alerted every single time I drop a Game of Thrones video throughout this long night. Super special thank you to every single person watching this video, and a super special thank you to every single member of my Patreon family over on patreon.com/SirHuntsReviews. I want to thank you all again so much for watching. My name's Mark, and this has been Sir Hunts Review.